Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Are you gonna play this drum? Okay. I would like you to play something. That's how you call a meeting to order,
All right.
with the sound of the drum. Give me a pulse. Deeper and steady, like the beat. Because in the beginning was the beat, and the beat was the rhythm of God, and the rhythm of God is the harmony of humanity. And where there is harmony, there is peace. Now peace syncopates the beats of the drum. As the drum plays, the syncopation speaks the word of God, yeah, the word of peace. And the word has a rhythm that ignites the souls of humanity and harmonizes all of life. And everything that lives comes in tune with the rhythm of God that was in the beginning, the beat, beating, 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 peace. This drum is of peace. Just want to thank you guys for coming out, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to share in some word, we're going to share in some thought, and some expression, and some feeling. And we're just going to let, as you say in church, the Spirit do as it will, and all be edified and strengthened from the sharing. I want to thank the young black storytellers, Jerry Blue, Tom Carter, Reggie McGee, and our Pan-Afrikan Student Union poets. And we also want to thank and acknowledge the spirit of Emanita Gay Hawthorne, who has perpetuated the word that has been spread on this campus and throughout this community for many a year. Ashe. The beat. And the beat continues. And we're going to continue the beat with a few selections from a freshman from the Pan-Afrikan Student Union, a native of Chicago, and a very, very thoughtful and deep-minded sister. So I'm going to ask Kanisha if she would come and share a couple of thoughts on the beat.
Hello.
Good evening.
My first selection is called The Slave Boat. Bodies alongside of bodies, chained and destroyed, destined to slavery, must bow through the air, but this was not a care to the woman who wondered where her child was. Blood dripping from bodies onto the floor where bare feet rest on top of dirt, blood-stained dirt. Release me, I want to be free, free the way I was before I was torn before my mother's arms. Thousands of petals cry in a storm as their ship falls beneath the sea. The brisk water splashed upon their faces and chilled their souls. Petals lost in a sea of ungodly things, too afraid to swim and no familiar place to go. For this is new land, not known to the African man. My next selection is called Lucid. The world with its acrid nectar and oppressed sirens has left in my heart a dilapidating residue. The world with its defiled materials and cacophonious lyrics has left in my mind a dehumanizing feeling. Many are just too ignorant to see the nakedness of their stupidity. The world, with its indecisive missing links and indicated vengeance, has not yet blinded me. Thank you.
I'd like our next sharing to come from a person I consider a mentor and someone that I admire for the active work that she's done for so many years to continue and perpetuate the word. It's Tony Carter.
Be here in Augsburg tonight, and thank you for the invitation to share with you this celebration, not simply of African American History Month, but of African American history, of our lives. And I think I'd like to start out on a somewhat comic tone, but it's not a comedy. It's an answer to a question. You know, we've gone through a lot of changes of name changes, which reflect changes of identity perhaps once unknown, and identity renewed. And quite often, I hear people say, what is it, let me see, that they are calling themselves today? Is it Negro, or are they colored? You know, what am I supposed to say? Are they black or African American? Gosh, they're always changing. Here we go again. So I have, from a dear, dear friend of mine, in fact, my sister, a little reply, and it is called The Evolution of the African American. A man came from Mars and wanted to know just what color is a Negro. Well, a Negro used to be black, my friend. That is, till old Master put his 2 cents in. Then we became all shades, my fella. Why, some of us, we became downright yellow. I'm telling you, we became so many different hues. Why, some of us downright got confused, and we started calling all Negroes colored. Black started taking on a negative tone. We started wishing that our black was gone. Then, a mighty fine fella started shouting out loud, talking about, we're all black, and we're supposed to be proud. He gave us a whole new point of view, accustomed us to our darkened hue, and we stopped making our hair bone straight, went into what we called our natural state. Fist in the air, we would shout out loud, telling the world, we black, we black, we black, and we proud. We began to search for from whence we came, and that's when we gave ourselves a brand new name. African American now is our cry. So, you never have to explain, I never have to explain, what color am I? Thank you. And Joe, should I share a story at this point?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd share brief stories with
Let's
you.
flow.
And I'll share a story from a person that we know of as Asa, or Esau, an African slave who lived in Egypt a long, long time ago. And he gave us so many thoughts and things to remember. Sometimes we share them between each other. We call them wisdom, or we talk about little sayings, sometimes attached to the ends of stories, that we call morals. Aesop's morals attached to the ends of the stories, which he never wrote down, by the way, have become our life's lessons and the things that we now pass on from one to the other. Do any of you know of any Aesop's morals?
Morals?
Tales, stories, lessons, observations. Aesop is the guy that said, don't cry over spilled milk, for example. That came from Aesop. Long time ago, African slave working sometimes in the king's courts because he was so clever that they dubbed him wise man. Aesop gave us lots of things to think about. And here's a little tale that comes from Aesop. It's about an African maiden. An African maiden who was very, very playful. And she had a big imagination. And she was always making up things in her head, in her mind. She would create, as she played out in the village, all kinds of things. And she would imagine herself in all kinds of roles. You see, she had a very, very big imagination. And one day, her mother said, I need you to go to market for me. Her mother needed her to take eggs to market. And so she did. And on the way, she played and she dreamt of all kinds of things. And she returned with those eggs. Well, her mother asked her time and time again to go to market. And she really liked doing this. Because on the way, she could play and imagine herself in all sorts of roles. And each time she went, she took a little longer to go and return. Until one day her mother said, I need you to go to market. And she gave her a pail of milk. And she took that milk and she did as many African maidens do, put it on her head. So she set the pail of milk on her head, and off to the market she went. Now, you might think that that would be a little bit difficult, a pail of milk on one's head, but in African villages, oh, it is learned as a skill. And in fact, one can carry a pail of milk, or actually a basket tightly woven, filled with milk, on one's head, and not spill it for a very, very long time. So this is what she did. And she walked away from the center of her village with her pail of milk on her head. And as she walked, and she was so graceful, and still she began to imagine a few things. Let me tell them to you. As she walked with her pail of milk, knowing that she must take it to the market and trade and bring back provisions for her family, she began to imagine all kinds of things in her head. Why, she began to see herself as a beautiful queen. She began to imagine all kinds of things. And she thought, I'll take this pail of milk to the market, and I will trade this pail of milk for 3 fine chickens. Yes, that is what I will do. I will trade this pail of milk for 3 fine chickens at the market. And when I get those 3 fine chickens, why, they will lay eggs, millions of eggs, every day. Those 3 fine chickens will lay so many, many eggs that I will have so much more to share. Then I will take those eggs to the market. And when I get to the market, do you know what I will do? I will trade those eggs for fabric, yes, gold and silver and maize, oh, all sorts of beautiful fabric, and I will take that fabric and I will fashion the most beautiful robes for myself, and I will adorn myself with those beautiful robes, and I will wear those robes. Yes, I will. The next time I go to the market, I will wear one of those robes, oh, the gold one, with the jewels down the front, sparkling, shimmery, shiny. Oh, I will be so beautiful in that robe that when I walk, all the young men in the village will want to date me. Ah, yes they will. And they will say, will you go with me? And I will say, oh no, shoo shoo, shoo shoo. I have not any time for you. That is what I will say when I go to the market the very next day. And then I will buy more fabric to match my robe. And I will come home and I will make a hat. For each robe, I will make a hat. I will fashion the most beautiful hats of gold and silver and lame, and I will put jewels on them too, and I will fan myself with a beautiful bonnet. And when I go to market with my robe and my matching bonnet, I will walk and I will be so beautiful, and all the young men will want to date me, and I will say, oh no, no, shoo! You see, I have no time for you. Just go away, shoo, shoo. And they will continue to come to me, and I'll toss my head like, oh, 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 oh. And the young girl picked up her pail of completely spilled milk and ran home to her mother. When she got there, do you know what her mother said? It's an Aesop's tale. And I bet you can tell me the moral. Her mother said to her, don't cry over spilled milk. And then she said, and don't count your chickens before they hatch. And that is the end of that. Thank you.
There's a word that reflects this time of year that we celebrate the history of African people in America. And for young people, you really need to know what people before you have done and the sacrifices they've made that would enable you to do and have the freedom to do the things that you want to do, things that you probably take for granted. There's a poem that has an anonymous writer, but I learned this poem when I was in high school because I heard somebody say it, and for some reason it stuck in my brain. And the poem says, "Black power, is this to me? Freedom and equality. Frederick Douglass, set me free, that's the way I love to be. Oh God, can't you see that this man won't let me be? But if I have to fight and die, then let me die by my brother's side. If I can't live and be free, then let my blood run red the sea." Black power. It's a word that expresses what young people your age were going through about 30 years ago, the challenges that they faced, and the willingness of sacrifice that they were willing to commit to address the issue of oppression and equality in this society and abroad across the African diaspora. And so I hope that thought lingered with me. I'm going to share a poem that I actually found in an old file of Anita poems. I've seen some stuff here I don't think it has really ever shared. And I think I might have a student or two to read that before the night's over. But I found a poem that I haven't seen in a long time. And it's one of my favorite poems. The depth of my love goes deeper than any man can dream to explore your physical womb. The depth of my love gets underneath the skin, which Amun-Ra has so richly, naturally tanned. The depth of my love uncovers green and blue contacts, weave extensions, and artificial bush. The depth of my love is wide enough to embrace you and yours with room to spare and more to share. The depth of my love is charity, which is love for those who didn't understand the King James diversion. The depth of my love needs love, that is deep and wide, uncovered, natural, and real. The depth of my love is God, Allah, Elohim, El Shaddai, and Jesus, yeah. My love is deep. The depth of my love built the pyramids and the Sphinx, heal the sick, raise the dead, still build and heal and raise them. The depth of my love is time in time, cosmically and eternally, which continues to renew itself and around. The depth of my love destroyed Rome in a day, which is 1,000 years for those who don't understand the day. The depth of my love flows from the Nile to the Mesopotamia to be sure that the world is really upside down. The depth of my love engages creativity and demands Kaumba, a better place for the love which it cannot even contain. The depth of my love can be found on Mars, Venus, Vulcan, Rigel, the galaxy Andromeda, and beyond. The depth of my love is time, flowing, building, creating, destroying, omnipotently, omnipresently, and omnisciently. Yeah, my love is deep. I'm now going to ask one of my favorite people on campus to share a couple of poems. A brother who probably, I predict, in 15 years, 20 years, he's going to be the head of the UN, Secretary General. Currently a sophomore, native of Zimbabwe, tribe Shona, introducing Brother George Kwangwade.
Thank you all. I didn't expect to talk right now, but I was getting myself, psyched up. But anyhow, I'll just rise to the occasion, as they say. I think I'll do that. Well, before I go into reading what I have been writing just a few minutes ago, I would want to just tell you where I come from and what I've gone through in order for me to find myself thinking the way I think, the way I speak, or what I speak, so to speak. I am from Zimbabwe, as you've heard, and well, it's a struggle being in a country where mostly it's run by white people. The economy, everything, infrastructure is run by white people. All you can do as a black man is to follow the lead, and you don't have anything much that you can say is yours except what your father and mother have left you, so to speak, I would say again. And well, as the struggle goes, it's not as if we are free. We still have our own struggles that we have to overcome. And as Africans, we are misunderstood, misconceived in many ways because we come from quotes and quotes, a free continent. The people here think that what we are here for, when we do our work, when we do what we do, is sort of a boast, so to speak, because as you will know, I mean not to be so stereotypical, but Africans, when they come to America, they know that there's a chance for them to succeed, and they work very hard for what they have come to do. So it's a typical African nature. We are brought up to work hard, and the harder we work, we know that we will make it in life. And as I was saying, I wrote this just a few minutes ago when I was working upstairs, and the title is It Makes No Sense. To fight for an illusion, elusive in its essence as a struggle. When we cannot talk where we are coming from, we cannot know where we are going to. It makes no sense to talk about it. The blood shed, the tears cried, the hearts broken will amount to nothing in the struggle until we know who we are. A people of majestic inheritance, that's what we are. A people with a rich heritage, a people stronger than any foe's disdain. The seeds of peace have been sowed, seeds of hate with them. But, it's only but within the shape of all this, victory is what we have. And victory we need only to take. Why I wrote this poem? Why I wrote talking to Brother Joe about how I have said before many speakers, and they have talked about the history of African Americans within the past 300 years. But as I thought deeper, I knew that African Americans do not start 350 years back. They start thousands of years back. And with that, I have been encouraged at least to say out how I feel, because as brothers and sisters, you have the same heritage I have. We share the same common platforms. The heritage of the Egyptians is our heritage because we are from Africa. The heritage of most African long, I would say, the ancient of all ancient empires, those that have been classified as the best of all before even the Western world was there. It's your heritage. Until we know that, we won't stand up straight and with our heads held up high and say we are a people of majestic heritage and of inheritance that has a lot more than 350 years of history, but thousands of years of history. With that,
What I'd like to do now is I'm going to introduce Sister Rose McGee, who not only is the most dynamic poet, but I think she's the gatekeeper for the young people who are going to share. So I'm going to ask her to come and share a few things, and then young Black students to come and share a few things.
I'll go.
Go.
Let's try that again. When the caller comes up and says, I'll go, the response from you, please, is Amen. Let's try it again. I'll go.
Amen.
With some energy, I'll go.
Amen.
It's real important that we keep that energy going. We talk about ancestor energy. And we've had our brother and our sister come up and share some of that, and our brother who had the vision of having this program and speaking in February for a culture, for a heritage, since the beginning, one that we simply are not going to allow to die, and we have to maintain that. I thought about sharing a lot of the struggle, but then I thought, no, I don't want to just only talk about that aspect of the struggle. February is also filled with hearts and things, and we think about love and romance. So I want to share some of that too, because we don't do that enough. But first, because of the food that we had, I just have to share a poem that I wrote in my book of poetry that I had dedicated to my father, because my father loves to cook. And I used to hang out at his house a lot and still do, to eat. And it's called Taste de la Soul. I hope y'all know what I'm talking about. Fried chicken and cornbread dressing, collard greens mixed with smoked ham hocks, cha-cha pickles, chicken and dumplings, pronounced dumplings, chitterlings. Please, the word is what?
Chitlins.
Chitlins. Slab of ribs sauteed in Leroy Burns' barbecue sauce, or whomever your daddy is. Hot Louisiana sauce for sizzling buffalo and catfish, fried among slices of onion. And don't forget the okra, pig feet, pig ear sandwiches, some spicy dirty rice, macaroni and cheese, real, not crap. Sopping up some sweet honey child. If you like cornbread, throw some buttermilk in a glass and go for it. First day of every year, serve some black-eyed peas. And oh, what about some grits and gravy for breakfast? Escorted by a fatback, if you dare. Hot biscuits and sorghum, pronounced sorghum. ribs kind of food, huh? Blackberry cobbler, pronounced cobbler. Banana pudding, please say pudding.
Pudding.
And sweet potato pie, and it's okay to say potato. Egg custard, coconut cake, homemade ice cream, just say cream. And so on and so on. And then you gotta wash it down with some red soda water and some already sweetened iced tea. Somebody out there gotta know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Hey.
We forget about our food and why we have celluloid and strokes and indigestions and all that stuff. Okay, it can be done leaner and cleaner, right? But we must remember those foods and why they are what they are. I go into classrooms and I ask young people, do you know what pot liquor is? And it amazes me when I see African American children go,
Huh?
and usually the European American children will say, oh yeah, that's when you got some pot, you know, like drugs, and some liquor, you know, like alcohol. No, cheering, no. It's the nourishment, the nutrients that our ancestors were raised on. That's what strengthened us. And pot liquor is that liquid that is left behind the meats and the vegetables, particularly greens and things, the juice. And we learned a long time ago that that's where the nutrients were. And then we perhaps pick up a handful of cornmeal or flour and dump that in there and it would give it some sort of, you know, consistency, some substance. So we have some strength. And that's what pot liquor is. Now, your young people sitting over there looking bright and eager, and perhaps some of you have already hit that first romance, or second or third. When I first fall in love, the first time ever I saw your face, I felt the earth move, and I knew from a distant place that I would be in love with you till the end of time, my love, that I would love you till the end of time. I wish I could always feel like I feel when I first fall in love. Nothing is so stimulating, invigorating, and motivating as the birth of love. The first time, I don't mind traffic jams or grocery lines or falling behind in my chores. So what if I miss that once a year sale? Or if the electronic garage door failed to open at -20? The first time, the first time ever I fall in love was the first time that I saw your face. Thanks. There is something about love that sometimes confuses us in terms of how we're supposed to operate with our children. And this particular one is one that I wrote, not quite like the brother who just wrote his upstairs, but it was just before I did a presentation a few months ago for a group of educators. And this one I want to dedicate particularly to our parents and to young people who one day will become parents. And it's called Ain't He Cute? And it's a very simple kind of poem. Whatever happened to that old time way? Think about it every day. Things just ain't the way they used to be. He sure is a cute baby, ain't he? And ooh-wee, look at him crawling and getting into everything. Ain't he cute? Child, I'm so broke. Bought up that mall. I want my baby to have everything when he can get it, because I just couldn't have all those things when I was a child. And I don't believe in buying him no cheap stuff either. I heard that. Whatever happened to that old time way? Think about it every day. Oh, honey, daycare teacher, come talking about he won't stop hitting and biting on the other kids. I don't know why she can't control him. Come calling me at work. I tell you. And let me tell you, he's growing so fast. I can't buy clothes fast enough. And you know, he won't even wear some of the stuff I bought him the other day at Penny's. Had the nerve to get an attitude. Wouldn't even talk to me. Wouldn't even clean up his room. So, okay, I just gave up and went on down to Dayton's and got him some Tommy Hilfigers. I know what you mean. Whatever happened to that old time way? You know, his principal called me today, talking about we need to find some kind of alternative school, because he can't seem to adjust to authority in a normal setting. I don't know what's wrong with these teachers today. Me neither, child. Me neither. Whatever happened to that old time way? Talk about it every day. Things just ain't the way they used to be. Thank you. But our children are definitely a part of our present. They're not necessarily the future, as we always hear. They are indeed our present, our now. But there's so much that we have to do with them now in order to make them prepared for the future. We have the privilege of working with a very dynamic group of young people. Sister Tony Carter, who came up here first, this idea was her vision several years ago of getting young children involved in storytelling, in the oral tradition, passing it on, keeping that story, our history alive. So I'd like to introduce to you a portion of our Arts Us Young Storytellers. This is their second presentation today, so they're kind of a little tired, but I really do appreciate the parents bringing them out and hanging in there with us. So please welcome the Arts Us Young Storytellers.
My name is Metric. The story I'm telling y'all is a jealous farmer. Once there was a farmer, and this farmer was so jealous, he was jealous of his neighbor's prize milk. And he decided this milk must die. So he dug a hole. It was long, it was wide, but most of all, it was deep. So he sprinkled some oats from the hole to where the mule was fast asleep. And he went to sleep. The next morning, the mule woke up and smelled them oats, and he just started eating. Wasn't even looking where he was going, so when he got to the hole, he fell in. Now, most people like mules hate to be trapped, right? So he started making all this noise, like, yee-haw, yee-haw, jumping crazy, and the farmer heard him. He was so happy, he ran outside, grabbed his shovel, and started digging up dirt and throwing it on his back. Digging and throwing, so fast, his shovel caught on fire. Now, most people know that mules hate to have stuff on their back. So what do you think he was doing while the farmer was throwing stuff on his back? Dirt.
Shake it off.
He was shaking it off and stomping it down. Y'all do that with me? He was
Shake it off, stomping it down.
And he rolled level to the ground. And he kicked that farmer to next week. For all I know, he's still flying around there somewhere. And the moral of my story is, if somebody's teasing you, mess with you, what should you do?
Shake it off and stomp it down.
I rise up to the ground? No, as high as possible.
My name is Stacy Wilson, and the title of my story is Trees. A long time ago, when the sun was passing over a meadow, he saw two trees. One was a big, huge, old, gnarled tree, and the other one was a young, weak sapling. And the sun, deciding to be nice, told the two trees about a terrible storm that was coming that evening. He said, "Did you hear? There's a terrible storm, the worst that's been here in 500 years. Well, that big old tree, he turned his head and he said, "I don't need to worry about that. I've been here for 600 years. I can get through anything." Well, the little tree, he thought about it and he said, thank you, I'm going to get prepared." And he dug his roots deep in the ground and he told the grass to hold on with all of its might. And when that storm came by, it was the worst in 1,000 years. And it was terrible, and everything was wrecked. And the next day, when the sun came over the meadow, he saw that big old tree laying on his side dead. But he saw the little tree standing tall. And he said, "How is it you stood, and this big tree is dead?" And the little tree said one simple thing: "I was prepared." And the moral to my story is, you can get through the worst situations, no matter how big or small, as long as you're prepared. I'm Adam, and the story that I'll be telling is called "Don't Blame It on Adam." There once was a farmer, and this farmer would wake up in the morning, and he'd take his axe and go out to the forest and chop down trees. And he'd wrap these tree logs up and put them in his cart and take them to the market. Now, when he got to the market, he'd say, "Logs, logs, logs for sale. It's a pity that I gotta sell them, but it's because Adam messed us all up in the Garden of Eden." Now, the king heard the farmer saying this, and he asked all his people, "Who's this farmer talking about?" And none of the suitors knew, so he called the man into his palace. Now, when the man went in, he bowed down to the king and said, "Oh, king, thank you for letting me into your palace." And the king said, get up. And the man kept his head down, and the king said, "Bring your head up, look at me." And the farmer looked at him, and the king said, "Now, I hear you every morning in the market talking about logs for sale and this guy named Adam." And the farmer said, "Yes, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They were disobedient to God, and it's because of them that I must work so hard." And the king said, well, I don't think that's pretty fair. Well, you can live with me in the palace for the rest of your life. You will be like my brother." And the farmer said, "Oh, thank you. And he said, "No, you don't have to bow down to me. You're my brother." And the farmer said, "Oh, thank you." So the king told his suitors to go fix up the man, put him in some nice robes and clothing and shoes and everything. And the farmer got a little round around here from eating all the food in the palace. So the king said, "Now, I need to go on some business work, and I would like you to take care of the palace." And the farmer said, "Oh, thank you, really?" And the man said, "But there's one thing that you can't do. You can't open the green door at the east end of the palace." And the farmer said, "Oh, no, I got this old palace. Why would I want to worry about a little green door?" And the king said, "Okay, thank you." So the king went on his trip. Well, the farmer kind of didn't have anything to do in the palace. He couldn't leave the outside walls because people were afraid he'd get killed. And so the man found himself going into the east side of the palace and in front of that green door lock. The man said, And he found himself about to open it. He said, "No, the king doesn't want me to." So one day, he found himself in front of the door again. And he said, Now, the king is my brother, and he asked me to take care of the palace. So in order for me to take care of the palace, I guess I'd have to know what was behind this green door. So the man said, yeah, that's good. So he opened up the green door just a little bit, and he looked inside, and it was real dark. And he opened up some more, he felt on the side, and he clicked on the light, and all there was old rags and all this dust. But all of a sudden, a little mouse squeaked right out the door. And the farmer said, oh no, that was the king's pet mouse. That's what he wanted to stay inside the green door. So he shut the door, and he started running after the mouse inside the whole palace. Now while he was running, the man got really hot. So he took off his robe, and he started running again. Well, he found himself slipping on the palace, so he took off his shoes. And he kept running after the mouse until he slipped again, and he fell into his big pair of legs. And he looked up, and it was the king. And the king said, brother, what are you doing naked running around in the palace? And the man said, well, I was chasing your pet mouse that lived inside the green door. And the king said, what? I have no pet mouse. And what were you doing inside the green door? And the farmer looked down, and the king said, I told you not to go behind the green door, and you disobeyed. You are worse than Adam in the Garden of Eden. I want you out of the palace and back to your home. And the farmer said, I understand. And he went back home, and he woke up the very next day, got his axe, went out to the forest, chopped down the wood, wrapped up his logs, went to the market, and said, logs, logs, logs for sale. And from that day forth, he never, ever mentioned Adam again. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Andrea, and I'm going to tell a story called The Fox and the Grapes. A hungry fox roamed into the vineyard one day. There, she saw a bunch of sun-bright grapes. They looked so plump and juicy, she could hardly wait to eat them. So she jumped to get the nearest bunch of grapes, but they were too high and she could not reach them. Again and again she jumped, but again and again she missed. She looked up at the grapes, walked away, saying, as anyone can see, that those grapes are sour, which goes to show it is easy to despise what you cannot have.
Thanks for coming out for, I don't know if it's over, but we're over. So.
We have a couple of more things to share, and I wanted to, I'm gonna bring up Trina. Trina has one or two things to share. Trina is a junior, and she's the co-chair of the Pan-Afrikan Student Union, and she's a very talented young sister. She's been in all kinds of plays, and she's gonna be a movie star someday, so I want you to make sure you get her name, so when her movie first comes out, y'all can get tickets to the premiere. Come on, Trina.
Good evening. I'm going to do two selections. One written by M. Anita Gay Hawthorne and one written by me. How Can I Explain This Feeling by M. Anita Gay Hawthorne. How can I explain this feeling? You see, it's not like anything I've quite felt before. I mean, it's a bit spectacular, this feeling for you. It's as if the fog has lifted, and I can see, oh, so clearly now. You see, it's not like anything I've quite felt before. I mean, I want all your time, all attention, and all kisses right now and forever, it seems. And it does overwhelm me. You overwhelm me. You see, it's not like anything I've quite felt before. How can I explain this feeling? Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I am Trina Bolden, a junior here at Augsburg College, who is the co-chair of the Pan-Afrikan Student Union. I am somebody, and I am Pan-African. And I'm wondering, have you got enough of me? Oh, I see. You haven't got enough of me. Well, as I stood there and watched your pretty brown eyes enrage with me over account of not knowing me, I thought, this must be destiny. Because how can someone be so mad at a person to a point where they cannot speak, but as time goes on and you become strong, you see, you just didn't get enough of me. Was there something in the way that I dressed or in the way that I pressed on and on that drew you to me? Tell me, have you got enough of me? Was it my hair or my brown skin? If you dare, simply because I'm African. Was it my walk, my talk, or my inner being as you thought? Tell me, have you got enough of me? Was it my touch or my kiss? Is that what you missed? Tell me, have you got enough of me? Was it my stilo or laying on my pillow? Is that the dealio? Tell me, have you got enough of me? Well, I see you stop by to say hi. Oh, you haven't got enough of me.
One of our students to read a short something that I found of Anita's from a long time ago. It's really short, it's really to the point, and it's one of those little things that we're going to try to do more of to remember who Anita was and who she still is with us. So I'm going to ask Ika Temu, who is a sophomore from Tanzania, to come up and share the quick words that are written by
The poem's called Things Would Be Different. If I had my way, things would be different. Women would be women, men would be men, and those in between would be happy. If I had my way, things would be different. The sun would rise in the south, and set whenever it wants to, and those in between would be happy.
And I want to bring to the podium Brother Jerry Blue to share a few.
African American Fragments by Langston Hughes. So long, so far away is Africa. Not even memories alive, save those that history books create, save those that songs beat back into the blood, beat out of blood with word sad song, in strange un-Negro tongue. So long, so far away is Africa. Subdued and time lost are the drums, and yet, through some vast mist of race, there comes this song. I do not understand this song of atavistic lands, of bitter yearning lost, without a place. So long, so far away is Africa's dark place. But in order for us to achieve, we have to have our dreams. So I say, to fling my arms wide in some place of the sun, to whirl and to dance till the white day is done. Then rest at cool evening beneath a tall tree, while not while night comes on gently, dark like me. That is my dream, to fling my arms wide in the face of the sun, dance and whirl till the quick day is done, and rest at pale evening, a tall, slim tree, night coming tenderly, black like me. In trying to think of what to say or do tonight, one sort of anticipates the audience. And as storytellers, we seek to not just entertain, but in most cases we try to promote how communities should live together, how communities should share together. And a community cannot share unless it has dreams. You see, dreams are the things that make us strong. And when we lose our dreams, we sometimes lose our way. There's a story that I've been working on that I like to tell young people to try to get them to try to think for themselves, to try to be better people. But sometimes we lose our way. And then if we don't have a mentor or somebody to lead us on, we lose ourselves. And this story is about a chicken farmer. There were two chicken farmers, and the price of chickens had been going down. And these chicken farmers decided, you know, how can we save ourselves? How can we overcome? And the chicken farmer said, you know, I was up in the mountains. And while I was up in the mountains, I saw this eagle. And you know, people love eagles. So why don't you go up there and catch that eagle? And you know you have this cage over here, and if you get that eagle and put it in the cage, you will be able to charge it admission. An admission price, and people will come and see a caged eagle. And that will protect you from your losses. Well, the farmer thought that was a silly idea. But the farmer also wanted money too. So he went up and he found the eagle's nest. And so he fashioned a snare. And when the eagle flew back, the eagle got caught in that snare. And after many days, the farmer came and he got that eagle and he brought the eagle down off of that tall mountain, down around where us common folks are. And he decided to cage that eagle. But you see, eagles are birds of the air. They are the ones that have soared above all things. And when he sought to put the eagle into that cage, the eagle fought with all her might. She clawed, she pecked. She fought for her dear life. And the farmer, worried about his life, began to pound that eagle. He pounded and pounded and pounded and pounded that eagle until that eagle lay dead on the ground. His friend soon came back and he saw the eagle and he said, "What happened?" He said, "I was trying to get the eagle into this cage And the eagle struggled so hard, as if her life was over. And she fought me, and I had to fight back. And as we fought, she tried so hard that I had to kill her. And that's that. Well, the farmer said, "What you gonna do now? You know, the price of chickens have gone down, and unless you do something, we're gonna starve." Well, they put their heads together and they thought some more and thought some more until the guy got the idea. He said, "You know, I bet you in that nest were a couple of eggs. And if you go up there and get those eggs and bring them down and put them under your best setting hen, when those eggs hatch, you can just put it in the cage, and then you can charge admission." Well, the farmer thought that was a simple way of doing it, so he went back up there and he got those eggs. And there were 2 eggs. And he brought the eggs down, and he got his best setting hen. And he put the chicken, or the hen, on top of the eggs. And it sat a while. It sat for a long while until one day, one of the eggs decided to break out. And he pecked here, and soon he came out. And not knowing who he was or where he came from, he began to act like the things around him. And the only things that were around him that he could emulate were those chickens. So he started to peck on the ground. And peck on the ground. He started pecking on the ground just like them chickens. And he began to act like a chicken. Until one day he happened upon a petal or a puddle of water. And as he looked at the water, and then he looked at the other chickens, he looked and he didn't look like them. And he grew ashamed. Because he only knew about what he had known or what he was around. And so he started to devise ways so that he could look just like all the other chickens. First, he looked at his hair, and it kind of stuck up, sort of like a crown. But when he looked at the other chickens, he saw their hair wasn't the way his hair was. So he looked around until he got himself some hair relaxer. You know, we call it Jerry Curl. And he started to put his hair down just like that, so that he could be just like all the other chickens. But then he looked at his skin, and his skin was kind of dark. So he got himself some porcelain cream and started to dab it on so he could lighten his skin, so that he could look like all the other chickens. We'll call him Tom Chicken. Well, Tom Chicken, he was just walking around, pecking in the ground and pecking in the ground, being just like all the other chickens. But soon after that, you know, back where that hen was sitting, came out this other bird. And he was not like his brother Tom. He was kind of strong. He sort of broke out of that egg all rough and tumble. And then he started looking around, and he started looking at the birds pecking on the ground. Well, no sooner as he had broken out of the egg, his brother came running over to him and said, "Hey, why are you acting so crazy? Don't you know who you are?" He said, "Well, I just woke up and tell me who I am." He said, "Well, you're a chicken." "What's a chicken?" He said, "You know, like those birds over there. Just act like them and you'll be okay." But you see, he looked at him. And he looked at him pecking on the ground, and something told him that he didn't want to peck on no ground, that his sights were on a higher plane. So he just would strut around, kind of proud. And his brother said, "Wait a minute, hold it. You better start emulating like, you know, like everybody else, or they're going to know you're different." Well, he said, "Well, I like being different." Well, he said, "Well, you know, your hair looks kind of nappy there." He said, "Why don't you come over here and I'll give you some of this stuff. You can put it on your hair and you can look like those chickens." He said, "Well, no. He said, "I like the way I look because my hair is fine. My hair is natural." He said, "Well, hey, look at your skin. It's all brown and dirty. Take some of this cream and put it on it, and you can be, you know, like other chickens." And he said, "I like the way I look. I like who I am. And I don't think I need to do that." Well, we'll call him Turk, because Turk was bad. Turk dreamed. He dreamed of high things, and one day he was out in the meadow, and he was looking up in the sky, and he saw something there. And boy, was it flying. It was flying so high, and it just spiraled down and spiraled down until it landed on the tree under which Turk was sitting. Well, he was sitting there, and he saw that bird, and the bird saw him, and he said, "Hey, brother, what you doing down there on the ground?" He said, "I don't know. I'm just sitting here." He said, "Well, you're a bird of the air. Come up and join me." He said, "Come up and join you? I can't fly." And he said, "Why can't you fly?" He said, "But I don't know." He said, "Don't you know you're an eagle?" He said, "An eagle? Well, my brother been telling me I'm a chicken. Aren't I a chicken?" He said, "No, you're not a chicken, you're an eagle. Now fly up here with me, and I will tell you about your people." He said, "Fly up there? How can I get up there?" He said, "Boy, just flap your wings." And that's what he did, because he started to flap his wings, and as he was flapping his wings, he could feel himself lifting. He flapped some more, and he was lifting higher. And then he kept flapping and flapping and flapping until soon he was up on the tree with that old eagle. Now that old eagle sat there and said, "You know, do you know who your people are?" who your people are? He said, no, I don't know my people. He said, your people, your mother and your father were the kings and queens of the air. They have flown great distances. They have hovered in the air. And that's what you are. He said, come fly with me, and I will show you things, I will show you possibilities that you may have never dreamed of. Come fly with me. He said, but what about my brother? Can I go back and tell him who we are? He said, you can try that. But your brothers have been conditioned. He has been with the chickens too long. And no matter how hard you try to change him, you may not be able to. Maybe at a later time you can come back when you have gained the experiences that you need. And maybe through letting him see you walk your path, he may decide to follow you. But until that day, come fly with me. And so they began that journey, and they began to fly. They flew high into the sky, and as they were flying over the sky, that eagle felt like he could soar. And soar he did. He was flying and not realizing where he was until he looked down at the valley. Well, when he looked at the valley and looked at how high he was, he began to falter. He began to not know which way to go. He almost lost his way. He said, what do I do now? I am so high, I might fall. And that valley is so deep that if I fall, I will never be able to rise again. But that eagle flew next to him. And he said, you know, that's just the valley of oppression. If you just flap harder, you can fly over it. Just keep flapping your wings. Keep flapping your wings and you can overcome it. Well, he overcame that. But no sooner than you get out of one obstacle, you fall into another. This time he was flying over the desert. And as you are in the desert, because of how hot it is, the air currents just cause problems. And he was flying through it, and he ran into climates that he had never, ever ran into. And it unnerved him. And he grew tired. And he said to the bird, he said, what do we do now? We are so far out. Do we turn around? He said, no, we don't turn around. We just keep flying. You see, this is just the desert of mediocrity. The desert of C minuses. The desert of I don't care. If you keep flying, keep going, you will overcome that desert. There may be some dry times in your life, But if you keep just flying, you can overcome it. And he began to fly proud. He began to fly like that eagle until he saw another obstacle. And he started flying, and as he got closer and closer, it was as if it was a sheer cliff. And he said, what do we do now? If we keep going, we're going to just crash into it. Well, the eagle said, what we do is we fly above it. We fly high now. We use all the strength we can, and we fly over it. For what you see before you is just the mountain of injustice. There is going to be injustice always in your life. And what you have to do is you have to remember who you are. And so you fly high. And he began to fly. He began to fly higher and higher and higher until he overcame that mountain. And he rested a while and grew strong and dreamed of possibility. He is flying now. He is flying like you are today. And he sings his song. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through an open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. And so tonight, what this event is about is flying high. I tell all people that we all are storytellers, that each and every one of us has a story to tell. When I am with children sometimes telling stories, I always end with a riddle. And I always say, why is it that in all the stories told by the warriors, the lions always lose? And the children usually will say things like, well, because they're lying? And I said, no, that's not the answer. They said, well, is it because the warriors, they have the weapons and they're stronger? I said, no, that's not the answer. They said, well, is it because the lion is so boastful and they go out there and they try to triumph and they get themselves killed? I said, no. I say, listen again. Why is it that in all the stories told by the warriors, the lions always lose? And by that time they get all quiet. And then I say to them, it will always be true until the lions start telling the stories. Because each of you are lions. You must begin to tell your story. Because if you don't tell your story, there's usually somebody out there who will tell your story. But they will only tell it the way that makes them look great. And as I always say, that's the truth. And that's a fact, because I would never tell you a fib.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to appreciate the young black storytellers for hanging out with us, sharing with us. Keep learning them stories, keep telling them stories, keep sharing the word that has meaning, not just to you or to your community, but people who are open to hear. I want to thank those students of ours from the Pan-Afrikan Student Union who shared some poetry, Anisha, Trina, and George. And I want to definitely thank Rose and Tony, who really have worked diligently with the young black storytellers, as well as just keeping the notion of the word alive in the various expressions that God's gifted us to bring. And I want to thank Jeff and Derry Blue for coming out and sharing that story. Now, we're going to close out. Some of y'all don't know how we do, but in the Pan-Afrikan Student Union, we have a tradition of closing out our intimate programs like this by joining in a circle, grabbing hands, and it was something that Nita had started over the years, and we always end our sessions like this with what? 7 Harambe. Swahili word which means what? Let us all pull together. Let us all pull together. Now we say 7 Harambes, and on the 7th one we hold it high. Ready? Harambe! 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 Harambe!
I know. Bedtime tonight, you know.
Where do you guys go a little bit? Can I please? Are you serious? It's not creative. Can I? How do you know? You know. That's how you see it.
He's always supposed to be covered.
Thank you for coming out.
Jason was here.
George.
Oh, so you have to give him the credit, huh?
She didn't want to give me no credit.
No.
It's all right.
Well, when you publish it, give him credit, okay? I was something.
Yes, she is. She's I have her.
Now sit down. You gotta fix your face.
It's in a collection of African stories.
Why didn't they, shut up? Ours go to the I was not taught to be alone.
So what year are you? Go back for the summer and then back.
Are we going out or not?
I just found out, I saw a security guy, I just stopped there.
Put that camera down.
She said she good. She good.
Not my camera. I didn't break my camera.
I'll probably go take a home.
There was another place.
Well, you must have been.
I'm not trying to stay.
When I went to the library school, I had friends who were from Nigeria. They were saying that as soon as they finished, they were going home, they were going to burn their winter coat. Then they have a big bonfire. Yeah.
I didn't know this was the program.
I have friends who say, I'm going home. Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
For you, I mean, you've been right here for like a whole bunch of years.
That's like
I'm going up
See, when my mother was alive, she was always saying to my wife, you guys gonna have kids.
Have a good night.
I was going, where's this coming from? And then she goes, remember when your sister was born, you used to be my babysitter, and I want to return the favor. I said, if you came and visit, it would only be 2 weeks. I get the other 50 weeks. And then my mother-in-law said, hey, don't have any kids for me, because I ain't babysitting. I ain't babysitting.
Not the connections.
I think I will be looking forward to seeing you.
Well, how's defending?
Were you trying to